What's up guys, Matt here coming at you with a quick look at these new Proline Big Bore shocks. I've seen a lot of questions about these, and really, you know, for me, there's something I'm not really going to use, but I picked them up just because when somebody like Proline releases something for the 24s, you know, I got to jump on it. Now, these are stock length, so they're pretty useless to me for most things, but something like this, you know, is a very basic. I haven't did much to this, honestly, and it's still running the stock shocks. So I thought, let's throw some oil in these, put them on this thing, and just see how they work. You know, obviously, or at least hopefully, it's going to help with that. And, you know, so maybe they will be useful for some things like that. Normally, I go with something longer, you know, and oil filled for these 24s, I say it all the time, it's not really that important to me. You're driving slow, you know, I'm better off to use a shock that I like, because most of the oil filled shocks for these are not very good. These Next Racing, I'm doing a video on those, and they're really good, but they're huge. They're not going to work on something like this. So maybe this is where these fit in, and we're going to give them a shot at least. So it says to put some 20 weight oil in these. They are really smooth out of the pack. I'm going to throw, I have like some 10 or 15 in there. That's what I'm going to go with, because 20 is almost always too thick for me. So if you guys don't have one of these little bottles from Hobby Lobby, great way to add shock oil to these little tiny shocks. So not enough. So I'm going to fill them up pretty well, pretty full, work them a little bit. Looks like there's not really any air bubbles in there now. And then we're going to put them back. So it's pretty light with the 10 there, but feels pretty good. So I think I'm going to go with that, and we'll see how they work on this thing. So the real question is, will these leak over time like most of the other 24 shocks? Hopefully, having the Proline name on them, they're not going to leak, but who knows? I'll get the rest of these together and we'll get them installed. Let's take a quick look at this thing. Just to kind of see what its tipping point is right now, and then we'll install the shocks and see if any of that changes. So here we're going to check like the side heel, and if my hand can be steady enough, we will see where this thing tips. We're at 50 now. About 52 probably, 51 or 52 on the side heel. Let's check our straight incline. This thing is nice and long. That's one thing about the Gladdy, is it goes uphill well. '64, '65, '66. 67 probably, so that's really good for this thing. So we'll get the shocks installed, we'll try this again. All right, so we got the oil shocks installed. It did make this a little more steady, not as bouncy. I did go kind of light on the oil because I like my shocks on these kind of soft, so you could always stiffen that up. And they have the preload adjustment. You can run the collars down and stiffen them up a little bit if you want. So let's see what we get here now. Like 54 on side heel, and my problem with this is trying to stay steady hand. around 67 on uphill. So our side hill improved a little bit. That makes total sense because we've got a little more resistance there before that body roll starts to affect the truck. The straight climb didn't change much, but we could always run these shock collars down a little bit, stiffen up the rear to kind of keep the rear from dropping so quick, but I kind of like to keep mine pretty loose. So these are a $40 shock. I'm not sure I really see $40 in value here, but I'm the type that wants more of a longer shock. You know, I don't want to go like flex crazy, but I like to have, especially in the rear, a lot of travel. And then in the front, I usually limit it in some way. You can see that's there, but you still have more travel if you really need it. So I just prefer a longer shock than stock. If these had been just, you know, a little longer, really, even if they'd have been in the range of like the hard parks, they would be really, really good in my opinion. I just would like to see them a little longer, but they are a nice quality. I do like how they have this kind of collar on the back here that spaces them out from the chassis, and they seem like everything's built really well. They do come with another spring rate that seemed to be a little stiffer than what we have here. Of course, I go with the soft, but for 40 bucks, you know, there's a lot of options out there. So I don't know that this would be the way I would go. Even these Hobby Plus CR18 aluminum oil-filled shocks are pretty good, and they are quite a bit longer. The only thing with these is the spring rate is kind of stiff. So maybe run them without the spring. That's what I do a lot. They come with another spring, but they're even more stiff, so wouldn't recommend that. But for a hard body or something, the stiffer rate may be really good. But just, there's lots of options out there. These are not the worst thing ever, I don't guess. They just kind of remind me of back when the SCX24 first came out and Hot Racing made their aluminum shocks, and like everybody had them because they were aluminum, but they did nothing really that the stock ones didn't do. But these are at least oil filled, so you know there's a plus there, but they should have been longer in my opinion. But let's go run this thing and see how it performs. So these Gladiators perform pretty well out of the box with their long wheelbase, the V2 ESC. Lots of good things going on with these. And this one is doing pretty well with just a few little mods done to it. These shocks did kind of help keep it from being so bouncy, and especially like spots like this right here when you're trying to, you know, bounce up something a little bit or just get that little bit of grip. And the truck just doesn't bobble around as much. The body's not flopping everywhere. So some oil shocks on here definitely helped that and makes it look much better on video and more enjoyable to drive. You know, if you're going for that kind of scale look, a good oil shock definitely is needed. So this is the first time I've ran this truck on the new course, and you know, some of these lines I just wanted to see where it could go, and it actually did really well for, you know, being just a scale-ish type truck with limited travel and all of that. But you know, overall it's driving really good. I can't say these shocks are not a good upgrade. I just personally wish they were a little longer, and they would be great. But you know, after running them, I didn't notice any leaking or anything. Obviously it's one time out, but I did roll it a few times. You can see there, made it a little bit hard on this truck, and you'll see towards the end the good old Emax servo is about to kick the bucket in this one. So it'll probably get a servo eventually. This is one I just don't bring out often, but when I do, I enjoy it. And really, I should take the time and add some like scale accessories in the bed or something and start driving this thing more. If you don't run the scale type trucks often, they're very fun to get out with. You know, I actually got my Bronco going again. It needed a servo as well. Another Emax died on me. I don't even buy Emaxes anymore, but all of these are some I just had from back in the day. And I finally swapped it out and got it on this new course, and it's one of my favorite to drive just because it looks so scale and good, and it's very capable and just a blast to drive. But as far as these shocks go, you guys let me know what you think about them. I wish they'd have been a little longer, but they are a good stock replacement. I just think they should be like 20, 25 bucks maybe. But anyways, you guys let me know what you think. I appreciate everybody watching. Peace.